Will your individual contribution be accepted or rejected? What ways of using your vital energy are really satisfying for you? Being yourself and not wanting to be interfered with. These are all pressures and questions that this cycle of the human design weather for May 14th to 20th, 2025 will bring. Hello, hello. I'm Margot Fraser, your guide through the cosmic weather. As a certified human design professional and intuitive coach, I'm on a mission to help you know, live, and love the magic of your true nature. In this podcast, Human Design Weather or Not, we explore the conditioning influences of the planetary motions, the transit field. You can't avoid the conditioning pressures. You'll likely notice their effects playing out around you, but rather than you reacting and being pulled off track, this awareness will empower you to navigate the cycles, staying true to your authentic nature and take advantage of opportunities when correct for you. Okay, let's delve in. For those who have been following along, my eye is cleared up now, so you don't have to look at that. It's kind of nice. All right, well, this cycle starts on May 14th at 7:53 p.m. and goes until May 20th at 4:02 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Universal Time Coordinates, that's coming in on May 15th at 1:53 a.m., going until May 20th at 10:02 p.m. Remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun-Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. Once again, we have two individual traits that are being activated this cycle, which have the potential to bring a pulse of knowing that could be mutative, which means bringing through something new, which could also be empowering. The sun has moved into gate 8, the trait of contribution and holding together. Its keynote says the basic worth realized in contributing individual efforts to group goals. It's in the same stream as Gate 14, the Earth's position that we'll talk about later, and it's located in the throat center. So it's the expression of your individual contribution to the whole. There can be fear here that your contribution will be rejected, or that in making your individual contribution that you'll lose your individuality. However, the whole point of the individual circuitry is to bring mutation, to bring something new, that spark to the collective and the tribe. It is not the purpose of the individual circuitry to make sure it catches fire and that it takes off within the tribe or within the collective. Some things will, some things won't, and you have to be at peace with that. The collective and tribal traits, they can refine, they can work towards continuous improvement, but there's nothing truly mutatively new that comes through them. So it's so important for individuals to contribute their uniqueness to the whole when it's correct, according to your strategy and authority. That's the opportunity that this trait really brings. It's the voice that says, I know I can, or I know I can't make a contribution to the group effort through my individuality. Because what's coming through is potentially mutative, it needs to be explained well to others. So this is what following your strategy and authority allows, ensuring that you've taken the time to be able to explain that contribution so that it can be taken up by others. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a verbal contribution. It could be through writing. It could be through art. There's so many different ways that we can express our individuality, how we dress, what we eat, all those things. So it can come in many, many different forms. The caution here is if you blurt out your contribution from this pressure, or you express whatever it is out from the pressure rather than your strategy and authority, or before you can express it clearly, it's likely going to be to the wrong people at the wrong time, and it's not going to have the impact. It's not going to be recognized in the way that you would like. And that's a great place to note that even if the contribution that you make as an individual does get taken up by the tribe or collective, they just assimilate it and they'll often forget who brought it through. So there may not be a lot of recognition of the impact of the contribution and that you were the one that brought it through. The Earth has moved into gate 14. This is the trait of power skills, also called possession in great measure. It has a keynote that says the accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction, coupling grace with control. Another part, as I mentioned, of the individual circuitry located in the sacral center. The energy to move you in your individual direction and empower your creative expression out into the world is what this brings. So it's really bringing the empowerment in personal empowerment. It points to gate 2 in the G center, the gate of the receptive and higher knowing that can receive that pulse of knowing of your individual direction. So if you don't have gate 2, you do need to be patient. Remember that anything you don't have in your chart will always have an opportunity to be activated by the cosmic weather or people that come into your aura, that come into your life that have that activation. Impatience could have you wasting this energy on things that are not actually aligned for you. So you have the energy to move towards your direction, but not necessarily knowing what the direction is without that two being there. However, just a note that we did have gate 2 in the sun's position in early May. So you may have received at that point a pulse of knowing about your direction and next step, but didn't have the energy to act on it. So perhaps there's an opportunity this cycle, if that occurred, that this energy is going to help you to take action on that. This trait's rooted in the wisdom that money isn't everything, but the detriment it brings is believing that it is. So when we look out at the world and how this is impacting those around us that are likely living from the not self, as most of the world is, we may really see in this cycle some focus on like trying to throw money at problems. Yeah, money's going to solve the problem because we tend to think of power in terms of money. Remember, this is the gate of power skills, but it's really about all of your individual resources. And this is located in the sacral center, that vital energy, that motor that generates vital energy, the energy to do work that's really satisfying. So when your individual resources are utilized towards activities that align with what you really enjoy doing, yeah, this is true power. However, because of the perception of power being having a lot of money, you may find yourself out of this pressure really taking stock of where you are financially or putting money towards things and people that you believe will show you your direction, rather than letting your strategy and authority guide you. Gate 14, being in that sacral center. Yeah, if you're doing work that you don't enjoy, there's going to be a lack of satisfaction, and that dissatisfaction could really be amplified in this cycle with this trait being activated. It's a trait that could help you prune away places where you've been investing your resources in things that are not aligned for you, or it could have you scattering your energy and resources out of frustration and impatience. So just watch for that in your life over this cycle. When we look at these two traits together, your individual contribution could be empowered by your individual power skills and resources. And you could get potentially whatever it is that you've been working on out into the world. Right? All those traits that are in the throat center are about manifestation and expression and communication. On the other hand, you could also, once again, spend a lot of money and energy on being heard and trying to make something happen when the timing's not right, or maybe the contribution itself just isn't quite the right one at the right time. Individual traits always carry the potential to pulse into melancholy. And with these traits, it could be melancholy that you don't have anything to contribute or that you're not getting recognized for your contribution. With gate 14, it could be that you don't have the necessary individual resources or feel that you don't, or that your work isn't satisfying. If that occurs, listening to music that you're in the mood for and trying to channel that melancholy into something creative can be supportive in moving through it. But it's just a natural biochemistry that occurs. So it's not something to make yourself wrong about or try to explain away to others. Yeah, I'm just a little down, withdraw a bit, channel it into the things that are creative for you. All right. Let's move into looking at the channels that are being created this cycle. When the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving the activation of the related qualities and traits. So it has a worldwide impact in that way. We have one medium term channel. It's coming in on May 17th at 2:47 p.m. going until the end of the cycle, May 20th at 4:02 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, it's coming in May 17th at 8:47 p.m., again going out at the end of the cycle. We have Mercury moving into gate 2. We were talking about that with the Earth's position. Yes, because it is the electromagnetic to our Earth's position in gate 14. So together they're creating the channel of the beat, a design of the keeper of the keys. So gate 14, that trait of power skills, connecting with gate 2, the trait of the receptive and higher knowing. This is a channel that can empower you to follow your own direction in life using your individual power skills towards your vision. And you may find that you can use that sacral energy that's here to do work that is really satisfying. And also, as you're empowered following your direction, that can potentially empower other people as well. It's a channel that could have you change your direction in life. Remember that the individual circuitry operates in a pulse. So that pulse of knowing could come into gate 2. Oh, I should be going in this direction now. And then there's that power from the 14 to support making that happen, making that change in direction. Just remember that you've got to put that pulse of knowing through your own strategy and authority to make sure that it's correct for you. So that change in direction, yeah, it can be great if you're following your strategy and authority, and it can be disastrous if you don't. All right, we've got two channels being created by transits of the moon. These are just little tasters, little samplers, because the moon only stays in a trait for about 10 to 11 hours, give or take. All right, the first one, May 17th at 6 a.m., going until 4:40 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, it's coming in at noon, 12 o'clock p.m., going until 10:40 p.m. We have the moon moving into gate 61, the trait of mystery in the head center, connecting with Mercury's position, which will have moved into gate 24 at this point, the trait of rationalizing in the Ajna center. So it's the top two triangles in the chart that are being connected here. The Ajna center is the seat of the mind. So we know right away when the mind's been activated, we have a busy mind that's going on. This is the pressure to know the mysteries of life. It can be inspirational, inspiring others to think about life's mysteries. It's individual again, so it can be melancholic, waiting for the pulse of inspiration and knowing to drop in. And the opportunity is that a knowing could actually drop in. Just remember that you have no control over when or if it does or will. That's part of the individual circuitry. It's such a short period of time, this activation, chances are that there's not going to be the pulse coming through, but hey, you never know. You have to let go with this activation of needing to know, accepting then that the pulse may or may not come through. Again, it brings a busy mind where you mentally go over and over any knowing that does come in to determine if it's really something new or not. The individual circuitry always wants to bring through something mutative, something new. So the mind's going to be activated, comparing against things that it's heard, seen, done, wisdom that you've taken in already. Oh, yeah, it really is something new. Ooh, okay. It's very, very acoustic. And there could be a lot of philosophical conversations that can come out of this particular channel activation. Next up, we have coming in on May 19th at 8:30 p.m., going until May 20th at 6:04 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC, this is coming in May 20th at 2:37 a.m., going until 4:42 p.m. We have the moon now moving into gate 30, the trait of recognition of feelings, the trait of desire in the solar plexus center, the emotional center. It's connecting with its electromagnetic gate 41, the trait of contraction and decrease, of fantasizing in the root center, being activated by Pluto. This is creating the channel of recognition of feelings, a design of focused energy. It's part of the abstract experiential circuitry. The opportunity it brings is to potentially get clarity from all the experiences, all the fantasy of experiences that you might want to have. Which one is the one that you truly desire? So that contracting down to, yeah, this is what I really yearn for. The caution is that there can't be any expectations with the abstract circuitry, and there can only be one experience at a time. Plus, you do have to be patient in getting that clarity. Remember that the emotional center goes through the ups and downs of the emotional wave. It takes time for clarity to come. That brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're here with us for a longer period of time, years in some cases. And so your not self mind could start to grab onto those traits, thinking that they're a part of you, even when it's not something that you have in your own design. And then it becomes quite confusing for that shadow mind, that not self mind, when that trait does finally move out of the transit field. We have the nodes of the moon related to our direction and environment sitting in gates 36, the trait of crisis, and gate 6, the trait of conflict and friction, both in the emotional solar plexus center. They're moving into line 3. So there's 6 different subdivisions or ways that these traits can express themselves. That's going to occur on May 15th. And line 3 always carries a theme of trial and error. Now, for gate 36, the trait of crisis, line 3 is called transition. It brings the opportunity for you to develop the depth to endure crisis and embrace change. This is about going from being a novice to having experience, and everything changes as we gain experience. In its detriment, though, it can bring a tendency to, yeah, I'm going to embrace change, but at the same time, not wanting to let go of the past, which is really necessary for true change to occur. And if you don't let go of the past, there is the chance that there can be this digressing back to old ways and not really gaining the wisdom, the progress, the change that can eventually come through this trait. For gate 6, the trait of conflict and friction, line 3 is called allegiance. It's very relational. This is part of the channel of mating, the channel of intimacy. So it's about going through that trial and error, enriching partnerships, and allowing them to grow through the depth of feelings that can be brought to that relationship, that partnership, at whatever level that is. In its detriment, it can be seen allegiance as submitting to being controlled, and therefore, no way, rejecting that. Jupiter, with its quality of expansion, that's what it brings, an expansion. So it's in gate 12, the trait of caution and standstill in the throat center. This is a trait that can express the feelings, the moods as part of the individual circuitry, pointing down at that emotional center. And what it brings through can mutate, can bring something new to the way that we interact with each other. But there is a built-in understanding as an individual trait that the tribe, the collective, they may not be ready to hear what wants to come through here, that mutation that wants to be expressed. So there's this built-in cautiousness, being patient, waiting for the right timing. Now, the polarities can always be present. So this can also be the gate of incaution, blurting out its moodiness in a way that could even be volatile, right? Think about the waves of the emotion when you're down. Whoa, that comes all splattering out. It's part of the channel of openness, being open or closed to social interaction. It's also moving into line 3 on the 15th, where through the trial and error, going through self-analysis about inadequacies in social interaction. Or the polarity, the detriment here is expressing self-hatred out of one's inadequacies in social interaction. So there is the potential, while it's sitting in line 3, for this expansion of, yeah, this expression of self-hatred and not being very good in social situations, or things that have happened in social situations that you didn't feel good about. Since we're into this trial and error theme, so we've got the nodes moving into line 3, we've got Jupiter we just talked about in line 3. Let's just jump right to Uranus with its unusualness in gate 8. We've talked about gate 8 already, that individual trait in the throat center, because this is also the sun's position. Well, for Uranus, it's also in line 3, which is called the phony. Yep, we might see a lot of phonies out there, but this doesn't necessarily have to be a negative. Individual traits in the throat have to find a way to be heard by the collective. So they may have to find a way to fit in, to look like the collective or to look like the tribe so that they can be accepted. And then that can open up opportunities to be able to share that individual contribution that wants to come through that gate 8. So there can be this adopting of a certain style while at the same time finding that balance to maintain individuality. However, in its detriment, the style can start to take precedence over the individual contribution, which others can see through and understand, yeah, what a phony, right? They're just putting on an act. Other people are going to be able to see it in that case. All right, Saturn and Neptune, both sitting in gate 25, the trait of the spirit, of the self, of innocence, and universal love. Again, the polarities can always be there. Now, Neptune's sitting in line 4, which is a really nice line. It's just an exaltation. There is no polarity. It's a developmental theme, which means we learn this over time. And it says the nature of true innocence can be maintained regardless of circumstances. The spiritual warrior. And this gate 25 is, it's about the unknown, the void, and being okay in that. Wow, this is definitely something we want to cultivate in these times. So, Neptune. Now, Neptune could veil this ability, but it could also unveil it. It could support us in going into the depths of the unknown. Saturn. Well, Saturn's sitting in line 2, bringing its limitations, its consequences to the existentialist. That's the name for line 2. So, yeah, stay in the now. Stay in the now without motivation, or there might be consequences. Perhaps that's how Saturn's going to bring its impact there. Pluto sitting in gate 41, the trait of contraction and decrease in the abstract experiential circuitry. We saw this in one of the channels for the moon. It's the gate of daydreaming and fantasizing about the next experience that you want to have. It's the pressure to start something new, and it starts with fantasizing about it. Just a reminder that in the end, it does have to be something practical or of value in some way. Like last cycle, an emphasis here that overall we have very strong individually. The Sun, the Earth, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, all in individual traits. Be empowered. Individuality also does not like to be interfered with. You can't have people interfering with you when you want to bring through something mutative, something new. You can't be influenced. So there may be this sense of like, I just want people to leave me alone. Or you may get that reaction from others. That's the impact that this can have. And with all those line 3s coming in here, we may see a lot of trial and error going on as well. Individual traits always operate in a pulse of knowing that can leave as quickly as it comes in. So with all this individuality in the field, it's a great time to have some way to capture any knowings that do come through, whether it's a notepad or a phone app or a voice recorder, just because, you think, oh yeah, I'll remember that. And then it's gone. It's like, oh, what was that? Kind of frustrating. Remember that for any of these traits, if you don't have them in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it all playing out around you. You can learn from it. But whether there's actually anything for you to do is according to your own strategy and authority. So don't let the transit field be running you or puppeting you. That brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. And if you're new to human design and you'd like to understand the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes, a bit of background on the human design system itself, you can grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human-design. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be very grateful if you could give it a like and consider subscribing. This could be a really great cycle for you to contribute individually to a group effort if it's correct for you. It could bring greater understanding that there's more to personal power than having money, and attuning to what work and what ways of using your vital energy is really satisfying for you. Be patient, check in with your strategy and authority before putting your expressions, your individual contributions out there in whatever form they take, so that it will be to the right people at the right time. Okay, have a great cycle, be kind to one another, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.